Hello! So it is summer, and I love being able to visit national parks in the summer. And today I am going to share this beautiful palette, again by Brighter Day Pigments. It's the National Park palette. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. There's so many beautiful colors, and there's not a ton of mica pigments in here, so you can get a wide range of colors. I cannot wait to share with you some of the ways I would use these colors and why I would take this on my national park trips this summer. Okay, so if you know me, I love to show my work on why I think certain watercolor palettes are really worth it. And the National Parks watercolor palette really is worth it. I say there's 3 yellows, a Indian yellow, a Hansa yellow, which is it does have some mica to it, a yellow ochre. So really you have 2 neutral yellows and then a bright yellow with some mica in it. The 2 reds that you have is vermilion and Venetian red, and the vermilion is pretty bright. It's on the brighter side. Vermilion, it almost reminds me of an alizarin red, but it's a little bit cooler, and the Venetian red is definitely warm. And then we have burnt sienna and orange ochre, and I use those kind of interchangeably, but they are a nice, they're both really good orangey, yellowish, reddish colors. And then I love that there's 3 greens. There's chromium green, viridian green, which really surprised me. The viridian green is not, it packs a punch, where most viridian greens don't pack a punch. This one does, which really changed how I use viridian green. And then tarte vert, which I am very new to. Azure, which is an opaque watercolor, and then cobalt blue, which is transparent, and then cobalt mica and silver really work well for water. And I love this quin magenta with some of the red. So if you go down, so here's the quin magenta. Look at all the ranges that this quin magenta can give you. You get some beautiful purples, but you can also get some beautiful reds and browns in here. So very versatile. The quin magenta, I think, is one of my favorite colors. I think I will probably have to get that in a full pan at some point. And then also we have red ruby, champagne gold, and white mica, which white mica and silver make for really pretty water as well. So that's what comes in this wonderful palette. It is $89.99 manufacturer retail price. And here are some of the colors that I have created through using this palette with the with my swatch grid. And if you look, some of these greens are absolutely gorgeous. So I do put my mica colors at the bottom and at the end. But the cobalt mica really is beautiful with the blues and the purples. You can kind of see those. Oh, so pretty. But I really had fun with this palette. This is a great beginner-friendly palette because it gives you all of the colors that you need. It has a little bit of high key, bright colors. It has a lot of low key for the low colors, for the low intensity colors. And so you get a beautiful range of colors by getting this palette. I think this is a great palette for beginners. You don't really have to mix a whole lot. And even if you do mix your colors, you're not gonna get like an icky brown. You might get an interesting green or an interesting brown, but it won't be icky mud. It'll be a gray mud, which brings life to your picture. So, painting. So these 2 were done with the national parks, and they're just watercolor panels that I will put on a card. And I love bald eagles, and this was done with the cobalt mica, cobalt blue, and then I use a little bit of the browns that you see in here. So it would have been burnt sienna, and then I added a little bit of the cobalt with the burnt sienna to get that darker brown. And then I also used, it looked like the greens from the palette, and I just let them mix on the paper. And this was a stamp by Blue Night Stamps. And this one I wanted to kind of share how the browns and the oranges can really work with other colors. So I got to really play, and I love that there's granulation up here. That's beautiful. And I just had fun. This was a stamp by Colorado Stamp Company. And I'm using a Zim number 8 brush and a Zim number 6 golden synthetic brush to make this work. Okay, so I really love this cobalt blue. And what I want to do is I will actually try and stain the lines for this one. I always think like a primary color could be at the front or at the middle and then work your way out. And so that's what I'm going to do. And because it's a split, it's kind of a split primary palette, so I can kind of get away with a couple of different ways of thinking about it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my cobalt blue right in here. And I'm just going to let it soak on the paper. It's a little bit juicy. I would call this like a tea, almost milk consistency. I am going to take this Viridian because I really think this Viridian is just so pretty, and I think you guys need to see how gorgeous this Viridian is. It almost reminds me of sap green, and sap green does have a little bit of Viridian in it, but it is just really pretty. And that's going to mix on the paper, and I'm quite alright with that. I'm going to give just a little bit more green over on the line because I'm going to make that into yellow. And let's do Hansa yellow because I think Hansa yellow works really well with this Viridian green. And I'm alright if it mixes in. That's what it's supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to see how they mix and mingle on the page. And that looks really lovely. And I'm actually going to bring in that green a little bit into there. And then because I have this beautiful yellow, I am also going to add in this vermilion red. So another bright color, another high key color. But it's almost reminds me of like Indian red or Venetian red, but it's not. It's a very, but it's really beautiful. Venetian red, I'll just put this right in here because this is my swatch, I can do what I want, is a little bit browner. And you can kind of see that, and I believe I should ask Nancy what the Venetian red is made out of, if it's made out of a mineral or if it's lab made. Alright, so we got this beautiful cobalt. I actually want to go on the cooler side. That was the warmer side, so I'm going to go back in with my azure. This is very opaque, so it's almost like painting with gouache, but there is some translucency to it. And so sometimes I will go out this way just to see what the color looks like. Alright, so that's beautiful. And then I'm going to go in with this beautiful magenta, Quin magenta, which I think is absolutely stunning. Beautiful colors. Ooh, that is going to be gorgeous. I love playing with these half color wheels. These are fun. You can really get some neat things out of them. Okay, and because this is so purple, I'm going to go straight into my vermilion red again. I know I had it here, but I still want to see how it mixes with how it reacts with the Quin red, because I really do love a purpley red. And it's not mixing as well as I thought the magenta and the azure blue does, but this doesn't. I mean, they're butt up together, so they should mix, but they're not mixing. So that tells me that if I want to mix on the paper, I'm gonna have to actually like put it into the pigment, which is just fine by me. Okay. we'll do that and see what if it changes at all. And then because I have this vermilion red, I'm going to go into my orange ochre and see what happens there. I really love this orange ochre. So you might be wondering why there's no brown in the National Parks palette. And the reason why I think there's no brown is because when I take any of these oranges and I mix, let's say, cobalt, I'm going to get a perfect brown. I put too much cobalt. Cobalt packs a punch. But I will get a beautiful brown right there is a nice brown. And in watercolor, we want to use the browns. We want to create browns that are already on our paper. So we could take the Venetian red and add the cobalt. We can take a lot of the yellows and the oranges and add blue to it to make our browns. And that's why there's no brown in the National Park set. But this is absolutely stunning. I love this range. Is that not so gorgeous? That's why I love this National Park palette. So because I'm on a brown kick, I want you guys to understand how to make brown in like the right way. There's a right way to make browns that's not gray, or it works. So we're gonna do a triad again. And we're gonna take cobalt blue, and I'm gonna make this perfect. All right, so there's my cobalt blue. Here is my quin magenta. Ooh, look at that, so pretty. Now this is called, this triad is actually not a new triad. This triad is used a lot in landscapes. And so I am just recreating this. And then I'm actually going to take yellow ochre. I did do orange ochre, and I like orange ochre. But this yellow ochre, now these three I use a lot on my underpaintings. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to take this blue. I'm going to take some of this yellow. And it makes some of the prettiest colors just by mixing them together. And then yeah, so you get a wide range of colors with these three colors. But to make brown, this could be a little bit of a greenish brownish color when I'm done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a nice big puddle right in here. I'm going to add a teeny bit, and I'm going to add that right into the yellow, just like that. And then I'm going to take this yellow, and maybe it's more intense. And I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this, so I get a darker green. That way I can kind of see the different ranges. And then I got another couple blues. I'm going to take blue right into here. And I'm going to add magenta, and I'm going to paint that right in top. I love mixing colors on my paper. I can get some beautiful effects that way. And I'm going to do the same, but this time instead of doing a lot more blue, I'm going to do a lot more magenta and a little bit of blue, so we get a different range. I just barely poked my brush into the cobalt. A little bit of cobalt goes a long way. That way those two will dry and we'll get an idea. Okay, so now I'm at yellow and magenta. So yellow ochre, here's my yellow ochre. Okay. And magenta. Woohoo, that's looking beautiful. And then that was with, so then I'm going to take my magenta and I'm going to probably have to leave a little bit of a line right up there because I don't want that to mix in, and I'm going to add my yellow ochre into this. This is called a contemporary triad. You can still get all of your colors, but it's very contemporary. It's not a, it's contemporary meaning like you're not using a traditional red and you're not using a traditional yellow or a traditional blue, but it's contemporary in the fact that you can get all these beautiful colors and make a landscape that is in high key with a little bit of low key. Okay, so now you want to know how to make brown with this. And my best is using all three of these together to make a brown. So I'm going to start with my magenta, and I'm going to start with my cobalt, which will make a purple. And what's the complementary color to purple? It is, that is a very purpley purple color. It is yellow usually. And so then there's my brown. And I got a nice range of brown. And if I wanted to, I could add a little bit more red to it to make it a little bit more brown. But this is how you make brown. You use the three together to make a nice rich brown. Now what could happen is right in here, I can make this a little bit more bluer, and that will make the brown richer. See how much richer that brown is? And so it's just a matter of playing with your colors. But there's a beautiful natural brown that is a color harmony with these three colors. And that's all it is. So that's why good palettes do not have brown or black in them. And this is a wonderful palette because it does not have brown or black in it. Okay, there's one more way that I like to swatch, so I'm going to show you that, and it's really fun. When I'm swatching a new palette, I always like to use a flat brush, and I just like to put marks on it, and so that's what I'm going to do today. I just start in one corner. I'll start with vermilion red, and I'm going to make a mark. It doesn't have to be a very fun mark, it just has to be a mark. Now maybe I will take this mica red and put it right down there, and I'm going to continue this process. And this Venetian red is very brown, which is fine by me. Alright, and now I can go into, this is Indian red, and basically what I am doing here is I am doing essentially like some kind of rhythm. Does it have to be perfect? And when I feel like I had enough, I just go on to a different one. But what I'm doing here is I'm seeing how the pigments react with each other. So if you don't know what to paint, try this exercise. This is really fun. And then you have a panel to do whatever you want with. You could cut this into squares, you could, and then put it on in as a collage. You can leave it like this and just calligraphy, like you color my world. Like there's so many ways to use this background. All right, so is this palette worth the $89.99? First off, you gotta know that these pigments are handmade, and they are rich, very rich with lots of pigment. And when you have lots of pigment, you are going to get beautiful results with watercolor. So there's no filler in this pigment. You are literally using the pigment and gum arabic, and that is one of the best ways to learn watercolor because you get to see the rich pigment on the paper. And I also love the palette is great for all for color theory. Nancy knows her color theory, and it is awesome that she curated this so that you don't have to put in the guesswork. The guesswork is already taken care of. She knows what the reds and the blues and the yellows and the quin magenta works well together, and I love that she put quin magenta in, because a lot of palettes won't put quin magenta in, and quin magenta is an essential color to a landscape palette. So, and the fact that she also added the gold and the silver and the white mica really makes this palette like a unique palette that you can't get anywhere else, along with the fact that they're handmade. Oh my gosh, totally worth the $89.99. I know it's maybe a little bit spendy, but this palette will last you for at least over the summer. If you painted every day, you would still have paint at the end of that. And for me, that would be worth it. That's 60, 90 days worth of painting over the summer. Totally worth it. So think of it as $1 a day with beautiful pigments. So yes, I believe that this palette, the National Park palette, is definitely worth the $89.99. Thanks so much for watching, and go check out Brighter Day Pigments. They have amazing watercolor palettes